Hi, everybody. Mundaeon, Astral, Oracles. Thank you for being here with me. And possibly you might like to join me and Lord Shiva and anybody else who is there for a live stream this Sunday. I think it might be the 26th of February, but you can check it on the channel page in case you're in doubt. It's the regular time, Sunday. Looking forward to it. Also, thank you for the wonderful comments you guys leave. I read them and enjoy them and take them to heart. So, Sacred Chow, you left a very lovely comment that meant a lot to me. So just I'm very glad to know that this stuff seems to also be reaching people in a synchronistic way, because it's very much intuitions when I get into this, and sometimes I can feel like a video didn't really hit the mark, or I had too much I wanted to say in a disorganized fashion, and yet sometimes it seems like it was just the things that triggered something, or a memory or something within somebody, in order for them to then deal with something in their life, and that's just amazingly cool. Like that sense that I always have about this practice, that if I just step up and follow the intuition around it, it does actually reach the people and serve the people in the way it's supposed to, which brings a lot of joy to my heart. But in this video, I will be sort of continuing the theme of looking into good and evil, and understanding what these energy patterns are, and then we'll be communicating with the angel of death, Archangel Azrael. He's not even an archangel; he's just an angel, I believe. But regardless, we will be looking into also the process of death and what happens there, because that's of course a thing that from the human perspective appears fairly negative, right? We have to die, and it'll probably hurt, and we have to leave everything behind, and like that's an experience of loss. And at the same time, death is of course a part of the a great recycler. It's what makes it possible that things can actually exist, is that they can also transform, change, disappear, and then reappear as something else. And that's the great ecology of the universe, where this element of destruction, of course, is one of the three legs of creation and organization and destruction. So from that perspective, this of course also means that everything is just source energy. There is no good and evil in the universal perspective. Demons also serve a purpose in the divine order, as do angels, and they may somehow, we get very Catholic about it, then of course the demons also serve to demonstrate that God in his infinite love has created the universe in a way where he allows for beings through their free will to turn their back to him. And well, this means in some sense, of course, that these beings in the energy perspective that have turned their back to them sort of exist in realms or circuits that are outside the divine flow of light and love, of natural processes of an order and a general proper placeness of things. So notice that the dissonant energies are always very pronounced around the demonic, and often you'll have this sense of something stale that presents itself. And of course, to us, these are negative qualities, because there is a good and evil that is um, if not universal, then at least lawful in the human perspective. And a part of that is that we are complex biological systems. And as a complex biological system, I'm very much on team life. I prefer other rich, complex biological environments. I'm even dependent on them. So I would much rather have a forest than a lunar slab of bare rock. But that's, of course, only because I'm a living being. Uh, That also means that I'm, for instance, on the team human dignity or team connection, or team emotional well being, like things that are inherently lawfully good in the very fact that I'm a human being. And you can, of course, get, if you don't have emotional investments in this, you can still sort of think yourself into the understanding that it's probably, if I want to live in a society where people are truthful with me, it probably stands to reason that if I'll have a better chance of that if I'm also truthful. So in that sense, all these like harmonic, healthy, happy, angelic qualities have something lawful, good, ordered, and divine about them. And this just seems to be a part of our frequency range. There are also plenty of physical beings who we must assume have the same privilege in the divine order that we have, that they're also wanted for by creation somehow, but that we, of course, despise, like rats or roaches, simply because their interests oppose ours. So there is an inimical relationship there that is simply maintained by the fact that we are placed in different positions and orders. And relating to that, it can be quite helpful to then figure out what is it the demon want, what is it that's its intentions, what is the reality that it's trying to establish and get you on board with. Because once you know what it's about, you'll have removed it from that realm where it seems to just aggressively want something from you, and you can actually understand that this has its place. It's just not here with you. And then assign it and even call in a guide or whoever. I have talked about this previously, to sort of let it move on. And so it's kind of the sense that I don't know where you go, but you can't stay here. And that's kind of the idea that if you're attending the bar, uh, and you have its closing hours, and you know that people wouldn't be hanging around dead drunk at that time if they weren't somehow in a slightly pitiable situation. But they have to go home and deal with their own problems. That's, their misfortunes is not yours. You kept them, uh, you kept them liquored up, and in company for the duration of the night, and that was what it was. That was what was on offer. So that thing about accepting that demons often also have a part to play, and that there is somehow like even an element of gratitude for the service they have also done in keeping your frequency low, while you weren't quite prepared to escape it. Because of course, what very often happens in these energy circuits is that we trade freedom for security, and that seems to be a trade-off that most people are willing to make. So if we, complain about like all the low vibrational stuff that's going on the planet, and maybe feel like, oh, there's some dark entities connected to those agendas, um, well, of course, the the trade-off for a lot of people is that they get to feel secure to be in a predictable reality that doesn't demand too much of them, of scary, freaky introspection and transformation and all the pain and hurt that goes with that. Instead, you get to stay in this sort of low grade predictability where you're at least locked into something. So the locked in idea, right? Notice how this relates to hell. Hell is, of course, like an eternity of pain. This is how we usually conceptualize it, and so it's inescapable. That's the quality of it, and there are different descriptions of it. If you go to scholasticism, like these descriptions of like how close are the bodies in hell, and how uncomfortable is it, and how much can you move, and and these ideas of discomfort, of being locked in. And notice what it relates to in the body. It relates to the multilateral pressure that you, for instance, often will feel in migrates, or head tensions, or other places where it's as if there are several tensions that are knotting themselves together and sort of forcing you to be inside a space that isn't a space, where there's simply not room for it. So your attention sort of becomes locked in a knot point that you can't dissolve. And that is incredibly unpleasant. And so consider what happens when we experience awakening is that you can think of it as the sluice, is that the word, the vault, between the light body and the physical body. That vault, the hole that the opening gets so large that it begins to break down, and then the light is just moving in and wanting to reorganize the entire physical existence, and doing whatever it needs to with the physical, shifting that around in order for it to be in there. That is super painful, as you probably know. But you wouldn't be undergoing this process if there wasn't already an opening, a type of space that it could actually flow into. And this is why you're capable of it. But imagine having to go through this transition at an instant when you are completely locked into ideas of reality only being your material self that begins with birth and ends with death. In that situation, you have to be completely dismantled, disintegrated, and destroyed in order to make the transition. And this is what happens when life flashes before our eyes, or people describe these experiences. There's a strong decompression of all these things before you can move in. And if you've ever been in an altered state that's highly unpleasant, and you feel like you want to escape it, it really does feel like it goes on forever. It feels like you cannot possibly get out of this. And at the same time, you are involuntarily being muddled, shoved in ways you are trying to resist, and it is so painful. Usually, for most people, angelic guides, light beings, ancestors, something will show them up and guide them. But when you're in a very, very low vibration, or you're very disconnected, you can't even get to that stage where they can reach you. So you have to go through these weird, like hellish eternities where you're simply being tormented by, your own personality in all its darkness, being sort of put together again and have to be seen for what it is by you, and then be seen and merged into the divine, which feels like a judgment, right? Because you're seeing, with, if you've been cutting people up or something in your life, and you have to go through that reassembly. And again, the projection, right? You're cutting people up because you're completely disintegrated yourself. So it's that process that's actually the experience of hell. And both in classical Hinduism, at least I think I remember some of the Upanishads, and also in Buddhism, also have these different kinds of heavens and heaven and hell spaces that spirits go through before they are reincarnated. And well, heaven, as a contrast, of course, feels like an enormous openness. And if you're already used to shedding things, letting them go, dying in life, then it actually feels like a welcome homecoming. It's like, oh, I finally get to do this for real. What do you know? And it's actually not a disconnection. It's an emergence and a reconnection into the sea. So if you think about the promises of heaven, right, like what what you usually, like, the selling points are, well, you get to meet your friends and family, and it's all love and nice, and then your pet will maybe also be there, depending on who you ask. But if you think about this idea that when you merge with the divine, you get to experience fully integrated all time, all space, all events at once, and you can freely move through them and experience them in their totality from a vantage point of seeing them in their serene, explained connectivity. And that's the experience of heaven. That's the eternal worlds of light, where the angels reside. And why we are connected to this, why this is, that's a strange thing. It is something that's mostly preoccupied people for the last 2,500 years or so. These ideas of transcendence, redemption, and afterlife, it crops up all over the planet, in Quetzalcoatl cults, in Mexico, right, and in Confucianism, or Taoism in China. So it's like all across the planet. There's all of a sudden this emergence of how to restore the soul into its true connection with the divine, and bring it out of the world. And yes, indeed, what is that all about? I hope this was meaningful, helpful, or at least entertaining for some of you. Now let's bring in Azrael, the angel of death, and see what he can tell us about the meaning of dying. Much love, guys. Light upon light I bring. It is the white invisibility of death that I am cloaked in. I, Astral, I speak to you. And it is true, in the hierarchies of the heavens, I am not known as an archangel, because those I visit must return with me. And so you also see me creating a shell around this physical body. See, this means that I have set this body off, and I'm only transmitting now the frequency of my wisdom, the frequency of my voice, my presence. I do not bring as my presence would bring your demise. Demise. Yes, death is destruction to you. To me it is a gift I bring. To me it is the sweet nectar that I bring to a thirsty soul walking through the desert. I see how you go about this thing called life, and I see that death must be the greater gift. Here I am being slightly humorous. I do appreciate that stiff grin that you all wither into finally. What I'm saying is that life's preciousness, it comes with many small deaths attached to it. Many are the spirits and servants that also run my errands, just as I run the errand of the divine law that governs all things. This I am set under, and you as well. Your lot was to be made mortal, mine to be immortal. Now, which do you prefer, dear ones? See the gift that I bring. It is the gift of preciousness. It is the gift of time itself. It is the gift of change. And yet, even though this is maybe evident to you, that death hastens towards you, there is a deeper mystery still. That is that when you align with my energy, you yourself become a life giver. It is through merging into my renewing force that you can also become a creator. Because a creator must accept the frailty of that which he creates. And a creator must realize their inability to control anything created. You are birth givers, and by giving birth, you sacrifice yourself on the altar of death. Many are the things that you have brought forward. Many are the creations that will live on under distant stars and in strange worlds due to humanity once having climbed down for the trees and walked out on onwards from a fertile garden, down, down into the deep depths of minds, where you brought forward the arcanum of an earth who had hidden her precious gifts away for you to seek. You were always seeking this creation. More than anything, you are these chaotic beings that bring new excitements, new intensities to the textures of existence. Sure, you like to think of yourself also as orderly systems. You have concepts of who you are. But then again, can you be said to have fully or even partially experienced yourself once you die? What is 70, 80, 90, 100 years compared to the vast expanses of mind that you have traveled? Your insights into yourself are very limited. And so the gift I bring to you this day is to encourage you to see yourself with the same preciousness as all these other things that preoccupy you, that you give life to. You yourself, you are your creation, and you yourself, you are being created. There is no telling what experience you can draw out from yourself. We that operate the levers, that push the buttons of the great divine overmind, we know that you are astounding in your unpredictability. And so it is exactly because you generate these states of being that are unknown to the divine mind that your existence is so meaningful to us. But also why you must be recycled, repurposed, move through the ecology of souls again and again and again for these strange products of personality, these creations of consciousness that you are, for these to be collected, processed, and archived by the great divine overmind that keeps a track of all things and log all concepts in its infinite reaches. Open vaults upon open vaults, open spaces never ceasing. This is where the blinding light leads you, into these vast open spaces, frolicking with the angels of life, reborn, repurposed anew, with love from the high heavens, with the love of the divine will and the divine order. I depart from you this day. I, Azrael, angel of death, I bless you. Farewell. I hope that served you guys. Much love.